I dream and the world trembles.
You are listening to the Emerald Dreamcast, a World of Warcraft podcast, with your hosts, Hazel and Wowmartiean.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the podcast. We are on episode 2 of Emerald Dreamcast. Thank you guys very much for stopping by. My co-host Hazel is somewhere lurking in the deep, dark reaches of the internet.
Hi, I'm Hazel.
There. Hi, I'm Hazel. Hazel Bro.
Hazel Bro.
Sounds so painful when you do it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So glad to be back. I can't tell you how much Hazel and I this past week have talked about how fun last week was, 2 years in the making, how it was just, I'm glad we waited. I'm glad we did it this way because this is so much us, and it just works out so well. And I'm so thankful that we've got people that show up in the chat room for us to chat with during the show. We really appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out. So, quick update real quick. Episode 1 is nowhere to be found right now. We are working on finding hosting for it, so it can be on Stitcher, iTunes, downloadable, that sort of thing. Hazel's probably
Still
going to...
need to Google Stitcher and figure out what that's about.
Stitcher's an amazing
It sounds like a
app.
sewing website.
It does. It kind of does. It's like, my grandma has the Stitcher app.
I feel like there's one called Ravelry that's like for knitting patterns. It just feels like a sister app to that.
Have you got the doily app? It's amazing.
No. Who uses doilies anymore? God.
Oh, people still do. Anyway, so it may end up on Hazel's YouTube. We've talked about that too. I mean,
Yeah, I need to do that.
yeah, you have carte blanche to do that, so that's
Oh,
no problem.
good. I wasn't sure.
Oh yeah, no,
I
absolutely.
should have asked actually.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yep, I mean, at least it's somewhere at this point. But yeah, we are working on a couple options. I'm in particular talking to some folks that might get us hosting and things like that. So we're working on that.
We're doing everything we can to get on your Walkman today.
Yes. I didn't realize it was going to be as much of a pain to find hosting, because when I did podcast back in the day, you could get yourself like a free WordPress site and you could just put the files there. No big deal, but they've caught on to that, and now you can't do that unless you pay for a WordPress.
You can still have a free WordPress site, but the embedding might get kind of pain.
Right. So
I should just like pretend that I know how to web develop and make one of those pages with like the flashing neon letters and like the autoplay music. Oh, and like little snowflakes, little animated snowflakes that like snow for no reason.
Do you think we can we get hosting on MySpace? Do they have some?
I mean, that's actually an option. I feel like musicians do that. I can't be that
That's a
much
good
harder
point.
to do it as a podcast.
There you go.
We can get our Emerald Dreamcast MySpace.
We're so retro. So we are working on that. I do apologize. I know a lot of people have been asking me, where's the show? Where can we find it? It's great for you guys to come live. I mean, it means a lot to us. But then there's people that can't make it, and people that want to listen to it while they're at work or
Did you
driving
ever,
or
speaking
whatever
of
else.
which, did you ever fix the past broadcast enabling
Past broadcast.
so that people can just watch it on Twitch?
I didn't know I had to enable that. Why didn't you tell me that
Yeah.
before we started?
All right, well, we'll figure that out for next week.
There we
Work in
go.
progress. We're professional.
Well, and that's the thing too, is one of the reasons why things are going to be like this a little bit is because we waited 2 years and we kept saying, okay, we need to do this, and it almost felt like we were finding ways to keep putting it off. And like Hazel essentially said, let's just go for it. We'll figure it out, and we'll
do it.
Yeah.
Everything can be ghetto so long as we're doing it.
Yes. So we're getting there. It'll take some time for it to be perfect, but that's all right. MySpace. So, all right. Anyway, so again, thank you guys very much for all the support. So many people that have, like I said, been asking me where to find it because they really want to listen to it. So that it's encouraging. We must have done something right. So, but let's start off this week talking about some stuff that we talked about individually or together over the week about what we want to do for the show. And one of the things I want to talk about in particular is it's actually a phrase that Hazel and I talked about, and she was kind of confused by it, and she didn't really understand what I meant by it. And it's totally understandable because the two words seem to have different definitions to everyone. And it's always an interesting debate about, how people perceive those words. Those words are hardcore and casual. I define this podcast very much for the hardcore casual fan, which means somebody that, like we've talked about last week, is still sub to the game, finding stuff to do, even though there's not current content. Blizzard isn't giving us new patches, new things to do. We're still going out of our way to find stuff to do that we want to do to fill out, our achievements or whatever it may be. And to me, that's a hardcore casual. Somebody that is doing something, like for myself, leveling 30 tunes to level cap. Leveling is something that's seen as a casual activity. But when you do it 30 times, that's pretty. I mean, that's a lot of
And
commitment.
you're some kind of a nut job.
Well, that's the thing. We all have our nuttiness in this group here. I mean, we all have our nuttiness, And there's pet battles that people think are casual, and there's people that go hardcore with that. Hazel's done that. You can check her channel. And so there's all sorts of things that are somewhat casual, but people like us put more time into that than, say, hardcore raiders who log in for 8 hours a week or whatever their raids are, and that's all they log in for is raiding, and then they log out. They don't continue to play. So I like to define the kind of audience and the kind of players that this podcast is for are the hardcore casuals, and those are the people that do the casual, quote-unquote casual stuff to to a hardcore degree. So that's kind of where we're looking at in terms of, what we're going to talk about a lot in the show. It's going to be a lot of general WoW stuff. We're going to talk a lot about news and Legion and everything else. We're going to have guests and stuff like that. But one of the things we want to really aim this at is the hardcore WoW fan that's going to be with this game no matter what. So that's why I like to use the term hardcore casuals. So, when you think of hardcore, it seems like everybody, when they talk about the word hardcore, it seems to be about, I don't know, what did you say, skill? Because, it's usually hardcore raider, hardcore PvPer, something like that.
So I think it's kind of this juxtaposition when you're talking about somebody that's hardcore of skill and time investment. Because you can be an incredibly skilled player, but if you only log on one night, if your guild only raids one night a week, you're not going to be a world first guild. You're not going to kill Mythic Manaroth at the same time as the people that are raiding their entire lives. So you need to have people that are dedicated enough to put in fairly unhealthy amounts of time, and also enough time and dedication to be as skilled while they're doing it. And that'll apply to PvP or PvE. It's just a matter of showing up quite a bit, and also being good enough, or at least dedicated enough to do the research to get good at those things. That's what we think of when we think of the hardcore players. That person is fully geared out in Mythics, that person with the Gladiator title, that person with that mount that you don't even know how they got it, and you whisper them, and then they tell you to go away because they don't have time for you.
Right, exactly. And it seems like there's in fact, you see some of the people that have the I think it's a trademark now at this point, filthy casual gear, because people get called filthy casual and stuff, and it seems like the casual word has a nasty connotation to it, which is unfortunate because and actually I was talking to my girlfriend about this earlier too in terms of hardcore and casual. Her thought was that, hardcore and casual, the difference between hardcore and casual is a casual kind of plays, in their own way and their own timing. They play, whenever they want, as opposed to being locked into a raid schedule or something like that. I thought that was
they
an
tend
interesting.
to set their own goals.
Right. I thought that was an interesting. I never quite heard that before, but if you're kind of stuck to a schedule and you're working with other people, and so you have to log in at certain times, instead of just kind of being more just I don't want to say lackadaisical, but just kind of casual. No other word. And I never heard that thought before, so that's
actually a really interesting thought, that the casual player tends to tend towards solo content, and maybe that's because of time restrictions, or maybe that's because of the way that they just tend socially. Like, they'd rather accomplish things on their own while still maintaining that social presence within like a social guild. Like, that's kind of what
right.
What Trauma 2 was almost about to be, was just people kind of mostly doing their own thing. Sure, there was going to be a raid, but it was going to be a pretty laid-back raid. Mostly people doing their own thing. Mm-hmm. But you still have a vent, you still have a guild chat, you still have places for people to be silly and connect and chat and be friends.
Right.
But it's the people in school that really hated getting group projects because they knew they were going to do all of it anyways. So they'd rather just do their own thing and not have to carry a bunch of other people.
Right. So, and that was the thing with Trauma 2 in terms of raiding. I've always looked at raiding as kind of like poker night with my friends. It would just get together with my friends, and rating as much as we were, like lax in terms of how we were rating. We weren't, being not competitive, but it was more about the time spent with the people as much as it was what you accomplished. And frankly, when you accomplished those goals with people you actually cared about, it was much more satisfying than just saying I got ahead of the curve because I either paid for it or I just jumped into a pug or whatever else. It was really doing it with people that you cared about that mattered more. And that's more what I was looking for. And I don't know if that's, I guess that is more casual in terms of playtime, instead of just being, I need to get the best gear and accomplish these things ASAP, world first, and, server first and all that stuff, even though those aren't things anymore.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. But hardcore casuals, I think it's just an interesting phrase, and it's something that I've kind of adopted for myself for a while now, just because I don't play like anyone else, and I do play this game pretty much every day and for a great deal of time, and I think my goals are a little bit more lofty than some other people. They don't make any sense. They don't have achievements attached to them. Hell, even there's achievements for leveling was it 5 characters or whatever else, but that's it, even though there's 11 classes. I don't know why they didn't extend that all the way. I mean, they've said stuff that they don't want to put achievements out there that make people feel like they have to do crazy things.
Yeah.
But then they have the insane title. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that one's literally called the. I guess you could apply the same principle. Have other titles that are similar to that for those goals. But right. Yeah.
No, I actually had an achievement maker. There's an achievement maker online, whatever else, that I actually called the achievement that I did when I got, I think it was 20 at the time in Kata. How do you kill that which has no life?
Yeah.
Straight from South Park. So anyway,
I feel like I can understand why they wouldn't want to encourage that kind of behavior, though, because heavy multi-alting, well, it's a great personal choice, and a lot of people like you and I really enjoy leveling. It can kind of break the game, like we saw with garrisons. There's a lot of aspects of this game that were not designed to be done on multiple characters, and some people that have 4 or 5 characters and they feel obligated to play all of them, they'll burn out a lot faster, because content that was designed to be done once or twice gets really old when you've done it, more than 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And if they put achievements in there that encourage people leveling, 4 or 5, 10 plus characters, then people might think that they're being encouraged to do that kind of thing, and that's just going to wear the content out that much faster.
Right. My only thing is, though, why make an achievement for leveling 5 characters, different classes? It just seems so arbitrary. It's just like, well, 5's good.
Yeah.
I mean, why? I'm just not sure who came up with that number. That's my only thing. It's like either, but that's me. Again, I think it comes, and it shows in the way I play WoW. And a lot of people play WoW to be, kind of completionists and stuff. It's like, to me, it's like, do all 11 or don't do it at all. I'm just very neurotic that way. I'm just like, OCD is like, hey, you know what? Doesn't make any sense. You're doing it half-assed. You got 5, there's 11, whatever. So anyway, but we talked about a little bit, alts, as much as might be, has been a little daunting, or whatever else. They are paying off with garrisons, whether they like it or not. And of course, they didn't like it to a degree. They had to nerf the gold missions.
Yep.
And I was doing quite well with those. And it's like, oh man. So anyway, speaking of which, really, we haven't really talked about what we've been doing in WoW this week. We've kind of skipped over that. What have you been up to in WoW? What's been primarily what you've been working on?
Well, I've been working on my normal thing, my goal of completing 10,000 games in 3s. I have made it a little bit past 4,000, so I'm a little less than halfway there. And that's gonna be a while. I used to want to be able to finish that by Legion, but I feel like if Legion comes out in June or July, I'm still looking at doing 50 plus games every day. Which, while doable, is probably 6-ish hours of playing, and that might be not quite realistic. So I'm trying to temper my expectations with that one, and I'm really looking forward to this upcoming week and this next one, because Battleground Week is starting, and I always love Battleground Week. It's a chance for me to get a lot of my characters caught up in gear, because it's by far the fastest way to get them into level 700 blue gear. And any characters that I want to try out in PvP that I haven't necessarily had a chance to, or that I've kind of left by the wayside, I can pick back up again. So I'm thinking of bringing my hunter through and getting my hunter all caught up, and then trying to relearn how to do that. And I'll probably get instantly disappointed in myself and give up after about a day or two, but it's worth a shot,
There you go. Yeah, when I re-leveled a hunter a while back, it must have been probably 2 years ago now, I noticed those initial battlegrounds were really nice for hunters. I mean, I'm not great at PvP at all, but I was doing quite well in Warsong Gulch with that.
Yeah.
I sometimes have the inkling to just level a hunter up to there and just cap them and just go and play Battlegrounds at that level just for the fun of it sometimes.
Lots of people do just that. There's lots of people that PvP that do nothing but unrated Battlegrounds. They just log on and they get some friends and they queue for the Battlegrounds and they'll just hang out in voice chat and have some drinks and have fun. It's a lot like the raid that you were talking about, but people will do that with just very casual PvP.
Right.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
That's probably at level cap, though.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, see, but I always suck there. That was the only time I ever felt competent in a Battleground was at level 15 or whatever. I'm like, oh. Or 10, I guess it was. It's 10, isn't it? So, anyway, okay. Well, yeah, as you can see, and that's one thing I definitely want to point out, Hazel is way beyond the hardcore casual thing. She's doing... I mean, PvP, I'd love to... we did a little bit of that back in the day when I first started playing it in Burning Crusade, but we were never very good at that, even though we were on a PvP server. So she's definitely way beyond the casual part of the hardcore part. She is doing something that I could do, but wouldn't be as competent as she is. So she's got my admiration there.
It mostly just fills time really, really well. The thing about that is... if you were trying to be a hardcore raider, then you're in a mythic guild, you're working with at least 9 other people, and you're on a very strict schedule. Whereas you can be just as hardcore in PvP, and you can put the same amount or even more time in, but you can put that time in whenever you want.
Right.
I mean, it's ideally you get on whenever your teammates get on, but because there's no more set teams, you can make friends with 20, 30 people, and there will always be somebody to play with, and then you just log on and you play as much as you want. So right now I'm in kind of a point where with the hardcore casual thing, there's not a whole lot outside of the insane title. There's not a whole lot for me to do. Like my pets are maxed out. Right. I have every pet that I can possibly get outside of that one PvP pet battle thing that I'm not touching, and they're all level 25 and they're all at the best quality. And there's nothing left there for me. There's nothing else to do. I haven't done a pet battle daily in months because there's no reason for me to do it anymore.
Right.
So outside, and my server's got 11 level 100s on it. There's no more leveling. Unless I branch out in other servers, which I'm doing a little bit, but it's mostly for the purpose of PvP now because that's really, I find, the most efficient way to fill time.
Right. So, speaking of the insane title, you said you were going to work on that. Have you done any work on that since last week?
Today, I logged on and I flew around Desolus because I heard there were some quests that would give me some Steam Wheel rep, and I did about 20 quests that did not, and I did one quest that did, and then they were all done. And it was a giant waste of my time.
All right.
Yeah.
Like a good time.
One of these days, I'm just going to set myself up with Netflix and hang out in that dumb pirate area and then steal a bunch of quest mods from people that are just trying to finish their poor quests.
Aww. Hey,
it's what you got to do. You got to kill. There's like thousands and thousands and thousands of them. It's
well, I'll be honest. One of these days, I've always talked about going for the insane title too. So maybe I could, if it would help, maybe I could join you and get bits of it done here and there, and work my way slowly towards that. Because the insane title would be appropriate for me. So, but myself, talk about insane now and a little bit hardcore casual is I've been opening salvage crates for the past 24 hours or so.
Did you set yourself up with haste enchants?
Damn.
Did you know that salvage crate opening speed is affected by haste?
I'm done now. Why didn't you tell me this yesterday?
I feel like I mentioned it last week. You just don't listen to me.
Oh, I'm gonna go back and listen now. I wanna know, and you probably did. But yeah, I was last week. I think at this point last week I had 650K, and as you know, I'm working towards getting 1 million just so I can finally just say I've done that. And I was just short, about 20K short of 800 last night, and I was like, I want to get that done before the end of the evening. I just want to have 800K by the end of the evening. So I was looking around trying to figure out what I could do. I did a couple runs in Cataclysm raids and stuff and got some okay money there. But as I thought about it, I'm like, those salvage crates, I had about 200 per character on 11 characters. They're just sitting there. I'm like, I was trying to hang on to them, like we said, for Legion. In particular, I'm in the alpha, so I was hoping that eventually they'll let us copy characters and I can kind of test it out and all that. Yeah. But I'm like, nope, I need my 800K. So I'm like, I'll accrue more anyway. So I went ahead and started opening them 7 characters, and about 200 each, except for the 7th one was about just half of those, about 100. So and that was about 20K right there, just taking everything that was in them except for the mats and stuff, and just vendoring all the gear, just vendoring it straight.
Yeah.
And
All of it?
Yeah, I sometimes like the 500 and 610 stuff that comes from there. I'll disenchant those, but frankly, I mean the gear was going for like 44 gold a piece and whatever else, and it was long run. It was actually doing better than what Draenic Dust is doing on my server right now. So I just went ahead and just vendored everything, and as of now, I'm at 830. So I got about 50k out of my 11 characters. It's really kind of insane overall.
Good.
Yeah, well, I also sold a lot of mats and stuff, all the mats and stuff on the auction house. So there's other money that came from that as well. But yeah, just salvage crates alone about 50k. So I'm hoping I've got, I want to reset tomorrow, and then I've got the whole week till next week's reset. I'm really hoping I can finish up and get my million by the end of this reset. So we'll see how that goes. But I honestly just want to get it done at this point, just so, because I want to spend it, and I keep saying
you got to get it done, and then you got to get that Grand Expedition Yak. I can't believe you don't have that.
I know. I really, really wanted that a long time ago, and never have. But the problem is like I was telling you, there was a great deal on a Swift Spectral Tiger for 530 on the auction house, and I really wanted to jump on it because it's the cheapest I've seen it on my server. But I have to have that million in hand just one time, because I know
you just got to get that screenshot.
I'll never do it again. I know I'll never ever do it again. So I've got to get that out of the way, and I don't want to keep putting it off, because honestly, the biggest problem with me making gold has always been that I just can't keep it. I just can't. It's not that I can't make it. I just spend it too quick.
Yeah.
So
there is a point at which you run out of things to spend it on, I've found, depending on your philosophies in spending it. Like, I hate spending gold on gear, because it's something that as soon as the next patch comes out, it's never going to matter anymore. But anything that binds to my account, anything, pets, toys, mounts, in the future it'll be transmog too. Like, anything that binds to my account that is completed forever after I bought it is, to me, 100% worth spending gold on, which is why I have so many of the TCG mounts. Mm-hmm. But then after a certain point, you've got them all.
Right.
And I guess I just got to wait for some more gold things, Legion, and hope they're really good.
Yeah, because one of the things I spent the money on as I was doing this before I decided to just keep saving to get the million was I bought a ton of the medallions and got my rep up. That's how I got my rep for the flying. I didn't.
Seriously?
Yeah, I've never touched a daily or anything out of there.
Man.
I just went ahead and bought myself flying.
Dailies weren't that bad.
I don't care. I saved myself about a month of dailies.
Guess so.
With imaginary currency. I'm fine. I saved real time for some fake gold. It was fine. So overall, I think it's paid off long run, having leveling up, having my alts all have flying. So yeah, it was painful to bite that bullet initially, but I knew.
To this day, I'm surprised by how many people still don't have flying. I'd really love to see statistics, like actual numbers on active players and who has it and who doesn't, because even now people will come into my stream and be like, "Man, how long did it take you to get that? I haven't done that yet." And it's like, really?
That is interesting. Yeah, I never really thought about that. It would be neat if we could find a way for them to.
It may be mostly a PvP thing, because for people like us that do a lot of the casual stuff, a lot of the requirements for the flying achievement, the garrison campaign stuff, the lore master, the treasures, those are things that I kind of already had done. Right. So all I really had to do by the time they introduced the achievement was the Draenor reps, and then I was good to go. But for somebody that just logs on in PvPs, or even for somebody that just logs on in raids, we had at least one raider that never got it done. It seems like a huge amount of work, especially if you're never going to level another character through Draenor again, and all you do is you get summoned to your raid, or you queue for arena or battlegrounds or whatever within your garrison. You don't really need to fly, so they've just kind of justified it to themselves that they don't really need to touch this. But I can't imagine that. I don't know.
Right, I'm going to put a. Oh, my sound just went down. I'm going to put a poll up on the Twitter and on the Twitters and see what kind of response we get, because that is a very interesting question to see. The problem is a lot of people will be like, "Nope, I'm unsubbed. What does it matter?" But yeah, I'm very curious to find out, those that haven't, why, or if there is a particular reason why they haven't worried about it. Very interesting thought. So, but yeah, so that's what we've been up to this week. Now that we've gotten that out of the way. Should have done that first, but that's fine. So, yeah. But
We already kind of had the conversation about the hardcore and casual term. That was one of our topics. We did that one.
Right. And that's we just jumped right into that. But it is important, and the reason I started off with it, without thinking about our week in WoW, is because it's kind of a lot of why this podcast exists. Frankly, it's a lot of the stuff that we talk about and what you would consider like hardcore casual is stuff that. Frankly, Hazel and I have bonded over. I mean, her pet battle videos are the reason I know she exists, and again, I've said a million times, and I still can't thank her enough, the Celestial Tournament video saved my butt. I would have never, ever done all of that work, but I knew that I could do all the work to level those characters up because I knew I had great guides to go by. Once I did all that work, that would help pay off and actually get me, at least one of the pets. I still haven't been crazy enough to go back and keep doing them and get all of them.
Oh man, once you've got it done once though, it's just like that's the hard part is getting all the pets leveled up.
I know. I just
Which one did you get?
I got Zoo or
the little tiger thing.
tiger,
You need
yeah.
Chi-Chi.
I
You need him.
Why do
You
I
need him.
What?
He's so cute.
Oh, well, that
He's also really good. I put him in like almost all of my 6.2 pet battle videos. People kept commenting, being like, "Hey, can you put some options for people that don't have this? I know you like Chi-Chi, but get over. Sorry, I can't.
That's okay.
Yeah, but Chi-Chi's really good. He's got tranquility. He's got a heal. He has an immune. He has that barrier spell that it's basically like the Anibisath Idol's deflection.
Okay.
And then he can do either flying or I believe it's elemental damage. So he's super versatile, and he's adorable, and he's like really cute.
I'll work on it. Maybe.
Yes. You need him. You need at least that one. Eula's pretty good too, but.
All right. All right, so that's about half the show, so that's perfect for one topic. So hardcore casual, like I said, that's something that we're going to talk about on the show from time to time, sort of. It's kind of like I said, the generic term for some of the topics that we'll have, and that'll be like on our Twitter and stuff like that from time to time. So I think people will be very like you said, will be confused at first, but I think it's a very important topic to talk about.
All we got to do is turn it into a hashtag. Just be like, leveled my 723rd pet, hashtag hardcore casual.
There you go, exactly. And we'll get t-shirts made. It'll be awesome. So, but like I said, I think it's almost about time that we define hardcore casual and stuff, to a degree anyway. It seems there's conversation about it, but unfortunately every time I see conversation is about those two words, it turns into some kind of argument. Of course, what do you know, scrub, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. And I'd like us to be a little bit more civil about that. Not you and I, the community in general.
Yeah, I'm gonna yell.
Because yes, I know we've all, whoa, what's up, Hazel bro?
He's a bro.
So
he's a pro. What's the song? Don't want no scrubs.
Oh, yes.
I feel like there's a WoW version of that running around somewhere.
There probably is, actually. I'm not sure, but I remember quoting that song on Onward one time, and Zarks had no idea what I was talking about. He had no clue of that song. I had to educate them or him. So, but along with hardcore casual, we actually were talking about this before in terms of gaming in general. I grew up playing platformers and stuff like that. I mean, granted, like Mario and whatever else, but then Zelda and things like that slowly graduated to more difficult stuff. But it seems like these days that you can't just play a game for fun. If you play a game, especially like an online game, you have to be awesome at it or you're going to catch hell.
Yeah.
Like we said, scrub and everything else, and I'm not sure what made that. I mean, obviously the internet, playing from a Nintendo in your living room that's not connected to anything, to the internet where it's going to be everybody has a chance to critique. I mean, is that the main, just that? Was that enough reason for things to kind of change where it wasn't just for fun? It had to be some kind of validation of who you are as a person?
I think there's a couple of things that have played into that. One of them, like you said, is the multiplayer. The fact that we're very connected and that everybody else can see exactly how well you do. And also the fact that now that you can play competitively with your friends and against your friends at the same time, if you're performing at a subpar level, not only like it's more than just your problem at that point. When you're actively holding other people back, there's more likely to sling hate at you for being bad if you're ruining their game as well. Whereas in a single player game or in a co-op game, it's not such a big deal. And then the other thing is that as game development has kind of progressed and people have learned a lot more about game theory and how to make games addictive, they introduce these concepts of not only just leaderboards, but there's achievements, there's all sorts of things to collect and complete. Even in multiplayer games, you've got prestiging, you've got the feeling that if you log on and you play, even if you didn't have fun, so long as you achieved progress towards a goal, then that's the important thing. That's kind of eclipsed the overall sort of fun aspect of the game, is the fact that you're like progressing. People want to progress. And I think that's become a lot more central to modern game, and it's very ingrained in the idea of the modern gamer. Like, if you're not progressing, then what are you doing? You're wasting your time. That kind of mentality, I think, has become a lot more pervasive.
Right, and I guess my only frustration is, I mean, that, and I can appreciate all that. Like you said, the circumstances kind of, lend themselves to that. But why does there have to be so much just negativity towards people that? Because I mean, that's one of the reasons that I get frustrated with like live streaming and stuff. Nobody can live stream and just have fun without tons of people coming into the chat room and just pointing out every fault. If you play, if you play Hearthstone at all on a live stream and you obviously misplay whatever, you miss lethal, for God's sake, oh my God, if you miss lethal, you just spread cancer. I mean, it's just the end of the world, and it's frustrating. I mean, but again, I think that's just the nature of the internet these days. It goes way beyond that, and this may be just another example of people being anonymous behind their keyboards and able to just do and say whatever they want whenever they want. So
yeah. And also, like you mentioned, Twitch has kind of given this higher standard. Like, if somebody's going on Twitch and they find your stream and they see somebody making a mistake, they feel entitled to point it out and feel superior to you, because they could very easily just click over and watch somebody that is like top 10 in the world playing on the same platform as you are. Like, there's very few barriers between the average player and the professional player, so people feel entitled to like demand the very best gameplay, even from people that aren't claiming to provide that. And that kind of entitled behavior can be really toxic on Twitch, but it's just kind of engendered by the environment. But the thing that makes me feel better about that is that absolutely everybody gets it. You can go onto a top PvP or onto a top Hearthstone stream, onto a top League of Legends stream, whatever, and this person can have won. They can be the very best in the world. They could have won global tournaments, super critically acclaimed player, and you're still going to get some person coming in that has never gotten out of Bronze League or whatever, telling them that they should have done XYZ instead. And that'll happen no matter who you are or how well you're playing. People are always going to criticize what you do because they think they know better. So at some point it just kind of becomes meaningless.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting to me because, like I said, I mean, especially a kind of a role-playing game that WoW is, a lot of people go beyond that, and it's just about, what their rating is in PvP, or where they're at in terms of what they've cleared in rating. And I don't know if those people are just a louder group. I mean, well, which people? The people that are criticizing people on Twitch, or the people that are disparaging other people in game for their achievements, or who exactly are you talking about? Well,
here?
I'm just in terms of the community, it seems to permeate every aspect. Twitch, social media, in game. It seems like that is. I mean, you can't win WoW, but I mean, it's like if you kill Archimond on Mythic or whatever else, you completed the game. Game's done. And if you don't do that, then you're wasting your time, kind of thing. So
yeah, there's definitely two sides to that. On one side, obviously, there's no such like we're all playing WoW. We're all wasting our time here, if we're being completely honest. Like there's nobody's better than anybody else for what they do in the game, and that's like people have a huge amount of respect for what's the guy's name that levels that panda by picking flowers?
Oh, gosh, yes. Double Agent.
What's his name? Double Agent,
yes.
Yeah. So people have a huge amount of respect for that, and that's the most casual thing you could possibly do, just because he's put billions of hours into it.
Really good point, yeah.
But the flip side, the reason I think that it's not complete, like, the reason I think that it's valid for people to still have that kind of sort of framework to measure people by in their head is if you're actively, like, within if you're just, like, crapping on somebody for walking by wearing a challenger title or like in blue gear, then that's just you being a terrible person. But if you're looking for somebody to fill out your group and you're choosing to accept or decline people based on their achievements, I think that's totally valid, because you can't expect somebody to play with somebody that doesn't know what's going on if they're trying to achieve a certain thing, if they're there to achieve a certain goal. Like if you're doing a challenge mode run, you're not selling any carries. I think it's okay to decline somebody based on their skill or their experience or their gear. Like, you don't want to there's no point in actively holding yourself back and making everybody have a worse time trying to carry somebody that doesn't know what they're doing just for the sake of being a nice person. Within the context of looking to fill out a group that's looking to achieve something, I think it's okay to discriminate as long as you're not being a butt about it.
Right.
There's no reason to be rude.
Right. No, I agree. And then again, that may just be kind of the internet thing. It's you're anonymous and whatever else, and you can get away with being an ass. Whereas, I mean, and this can go completely off the rails and go into many different things, but just when LFG and stuff came in Wrath, you were locked to your server, and if you were an ass, you got a rep, and it harmed you. But nowadays, you can just go random something and no big deal. So that was that, at least in terms of WoW, that certainly was something that changed the landscape of things. So anyway, all right, well, I think we've covered enough of that. I know, in particular, Hazel wanted to talk a little bit about talents and PvP and PvE in Legion upcoming, and I'm going to just kind of let her run with it. She has far more information on it. I'm kind of, when it comes to alphas and betas and stuff, I kind of keep my ear to the ground, but since it evolves so much, especially during these stages, I don't really get my hopes up too much or anything because things do shift so much. So I kind of listen and pay attention to a degree, especially about talents and skills and stuff like that, because I know they can shift real quick. But she has some really good points about this, and she wanted to talk about it in general. So you have the floor, madame.
Before I get too far into this, I just wanted to point out that they did another wave of alpha invites today.
Did they?
And I'm not on it.
Son of a... Dang it.
I'm so salty, man.
I understand. Well, like I said, I'm trying to like tweak the right people because, like I told them, she has a great YouTube channel where she's covering stuff in alpha and she's not in alpha. And she's got a great channel in general that will reach people. And now we're doing the podcast together. We should both be in alpha so we can discuss it better.
Whatever, man. I'll make videos when it's done, I guess. Then I won't have to redo them.
Okay.
There's always that.
All right. I'm sorry I tried.
Nah, it's all good. So the thing, it's kind of a hot button issue right now, and specifically because some big streamers, namely Sea-Doo, have kind of made it their mission to get this out there. I believe earlier today, Sea-Doo was streaming, top stream on Twitch and WoW with hashtag stop pruning or something like that in his title. And there's a big thread on the forums right now, just about ability pruning in Legion, and this applies to both PvE and PvP. And if you've looked at any of the class overviews I've done, or you've looked at the talent trees and the baseline abilities specifically that people are keeping and getting cut, there is a huge amount of abilities that used to be baseline to a class that are just getting ruined. They're getting completely deleted. And their abilities like Grounding Totem, their abilities are like Tremor Totem. I mean, Grounding's on the PvP talent tree, but there's a lot of things that are either being moved to the PvP talent tree where you have to choose one of three, whereas before you had access to all three, or abilities that are just being straight up deleted, that no more access to them, and they tend to be utility things. For example, as any druid other than for boomkins and resto druids, in Legion, you're no longer going to have access to dash or stampeding roar. So 2 sprints that you used to have access to, you're just not going to get anymore. So before, if you wanted your resto druid in your raid to use stampeding roar to get everybody to the next stack point in Archimond, you can't do that anymore. You can't. They're taking it away. And Blizzard's argument for this is that they feel that people have actually become too homogenized in recent expansions. They've been giving everybody a sprint and everybody a stun and everybody a kick and everybody this and that. And they want to try and start making those things more specific to certain classes to give those classes back their flavor, which sounds really great on paper, but what's actually happening is people are getting their 5 to 6 damage abilities, and then they get 1 or 2 utility abilities they get to keep, and then everything else is gone. And PvP in particular is going to be turning into kind of just a PvE fest where whoever uses their PvE damage abilities better ends up winning. And it's taking a lot of the complexity and the skill ceiling out, where people used to be able to work really hard to master all of their different buttons. Like as a given class, you could have 30, 40, 50 buttons they'll do something different. And even if they're super niche buttons that might never make it onto a player's bar in raiding, like for example, Soothe. Like as a Resto Druid, we have access to Soothe, which very low mana cost, instant cast, no cooldown, and what it'll do is it'll dispel an enrage effect off of a target. You're probably never going to use that in a raid or in a dungeon or while leveling, and they probably just think that's bloating your spellbook. But in a PvP situation, you can use that to take an rage effect off a warrior, you can use it to dispel Fury Warrior damage, or if somebody popped a spell reflection, you can use Soothe to reflect a Soothe back at yourself, and you've just gotten rid of the spell reflection without doing any damage to yourself with like a Moonfire or something like that. So there's huge amounts of complexity and different skill plays that people used to be able to do that they're kind of taking away access to. And there's a lot of different big names in this thread, people that are all just unanimously agreeing. I haven't seen anybody that is PvPing or raiding at any specific level that's actively defending this ability pruning. And it's just something that I don't know what they're doing. I'm really concerned. I mean, I see that they want to make this game, like, they're looking at Heroes of the Storm, which is probably getting to a point where it's more popular than WoW right now as a competitive game, and they're trying to forge their place in this esports world. And the best way to get more players into a game is to give them something they're familiar with. And your average, 14 to 19-year-old kid is going to be way more familiar with a MOBA than an MMO. MMOs are kind of aging, and they're not really keeping up with the current times. So trying to make WoW PvP more MOBA-like is, in their mind, it's probably for the best, but they already have a MOBA. People that play the WoW PvP are doing so because it's WoW PvP, because you have so many abilities, and because you can do such cool things when you've really learned what they all do.
Right.
And it's concerning. Of course, it's still really early in development, and even now, every new alpha build is bringing different iterations of classes. I know that they did a lot of work very recently on marksmanship hunters. People were very concerned that marksmanship hunters were becoming too simplified, and I believe they've taken another pass over that. I don't know exactly what they've done because I'm not in the alpha, but they're listening, I think, and I just really hope that they listen to the point where they give us enough buttons to work with that you can, as a player that's putting a couple hours a day into it, you can distinguish yourself from a player that plays once a week.
Right.
Especially because they're taking out PvP gear. Like, if you're going to distinguish yourself in PvP, you need to be playing better. You need to be making better decisions than somebody else, and that's the way it should be. I feel like going in and losing to somebody just because they have a gear advantage on you is really disheartening. But if you feel that they've really outplayed you, then that's easier to make your peace with, and then you just have to kind of, you got to get good at that point. You got to work until you can beat them back.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, see, from my vantage point, everything I've seen is that they are, at least, I mean, from a PvE standpoint, because that's more of what I'm into, is they're bringing a lot of different abilities back. But you are right in that they are listening, because, I mean, recently they had a nice big post about hunters and how they're getting a lot of feedback about the different, specs for hunters, and how the feedback is generally not so good in terms of marksmen not having a pet and that sort of thing, and how they want them to have back to the one pet and everything. Of course, you're going to have the melee and survival, but still, like, marksmen, they're giving the pet back, as far as I was reading. So
Yeah.
they are paying attention to those things, and they are responding. I'll be honest, from what I can tell, this particular expansion, they know that this expansion means a lot in terms of the survival of WoW. They know what Warlords has done. And I feel like one of the reasons why this expansion is going to wait to the last minute, their promised date, I think it was in September, to come out, is because they're really going to make this as much what the players want. They're giving a lot. God, they gave us Ashbringer and everything else, and in the Emerald Dream, to a degree. There's so many different things that we've wanted that they're placating us, and I really think when it comes to all these changes in terms of classes and spells and abilities and all that stuff, is that they're really going to try and tweak this as much as it can help, to placate the general populace as much as possible, more so than I've ever seen anyway. But like I said, because they really feel like this is make or break. And I mean, you made a good point in terms of heroes being so popular. And that's the thing we have to face, is WoW is not going to be the big kid on the block for much longer. It almost isn't now, even though it still brings...
I don't think it is anymore. I think we passed that point.
I don't think it is either, but a lot of people were pointing out in terms of money. But, I mean, think about, the money people spend on Hearthstone, for that matter, for packs and expansions and everything else, compared to $15 a month for WoW. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, yeah, I don't know. I really think that they're going to try and do everything they can.
Well, okay. Well, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you think that it is worth the benefit of making this game? I guess it's really hard to put yourself in the mindset of a new player that's never played an MMO before, because it is really intimidating looking through your pages and pages of spellbook, but do you think it is worth it to simplify the game for that player by taking the buttons out that you may have used in a fringe case, like in a raiding situation? Like, for example, you're a druid. They're unless you go feral affinity, for example, they're taking away your shred, they're taking away your ferocious bite, and they're taking away your swipe.
Mm-hmm.
Are you happy with that? Would you rather them do that, or would you rather them leave those abilities available regardless of your affinity choice? Or do you want them to get out and make room?
Well, no, I mean, I personally have always enjoyed options because I do play the game in various different ways. So a lot of those abilities that they would say I wouldn't necessarily need, I found a use for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Swipe in particular, if I'm farming a reputation or whatever else, and I want to grab a bunch of mobs and whatever else, and AoE stuff down. So no, I definitely don't want the game watered down. That is something I'm very fearful of, because I don't know. I mean,
I think by removing the abilities, they're trying to make the remaining ones more impactful, and I don't know if they're achieving that goal.
Right, and maybe that's an experiment that they're going to eventually have to realize that it's not working, and that's fine. We talked last week a little bit about class halls and the artifact weapons and things like that, and I'm more concerned about those things being such a central part of the game that we get bored with everything else, that sometimes I overlook all this other stuff. And I'm hoping that, these other, items that we're talking about, like artifact weapons and stuff like that, don't take up so much of our time and focus that we don't worry about. I mean, I almost get worried that we're going to get into this rut, which we kind of we certainly did in Legion, or Legion Warlords, that it long term it's like, so I can't do that. No big deal. I'm just going to be in my class hall anyway. And that's what worries me more than anything. But yeah, I think choice is good, but how do you deal with that with new players? Because let's face it, they're trying to get new players in, which I applaud them for to a degree, but
yeah,
I don't want to say it, but I almost feel like it's too late.
It feels a little too late, yeah.
Yeah, take care of the ones who are hardcore here, and that's like what we talk about. That's the kind of people for this show. The people that are subbed when everybody else is like running for the hills and saying there's nothing to do. Take care of those people. I mean, really. I mean, I think if you get a good core of people, they will bring people in because of word of mouth and everything else on their own. And, those people can help their friends in the long run. I don't think it's WoW's job to train somebody how to play. To a degree, yes, they have to lead you along to a degree, but I mean, I one of the things I loved about the game when I first started playing is learning, and I had no idea what I was doing, and hell, I was like level 20 something running through Darkshire, or no, not Darkshire, Darkshire, and some mage pulled me aside as a warrior and said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" I had no talents filled, none of my talent points used. I had a staff as a warrior.
Yeah. I feel like we've all done that to some extent.
Right.
My first hunter had some cloth shoulders on because they were blue and my last ones were green. And they just but they were blue. So I wanted them. Right. And I put them on. And everybody made fun of me.
Well, that was the thing. That's what I told him. I was like, well, it was better than what I had. Probably had more stam or some crap. I don't know. But, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know the mindset of today's player that would just quit so readily, because I enjoyed the entire process. And fact, these days, I actually miss the fact I miss the fact I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing. I don't like the fact that I know the world like the back of my hand. I miss turning that corner and seeing Ironforge for the first time and that sort of stuff. And you can't ever get any of that back. Even though we get new expansions with new, continents and stuff, it's not the same. That stuff feels like it's just there for us to chew through.
Yeah.
Which is sad. So. But anyway, I'm glad you're staying on top of that stuff, because that's the stuff that I really need to learn more about and pay attention to as well. Because, like I said, I have my focus on different aspects of the expansions, especially when they're in alpha and beta, and that could have a huge impact on this game, and it worries me.
It is worrisome, but I try and have faith I try and have faith. It's harder after the whole Warlords thing. I had faith in them for Warlords,
Right.
and I had faith that they were gonna give us enough content. And that's why we had to sit through such a long Siege of Orgrimmar, was because they're working something really great. And I feel like they let me down a little bit. Like, I'm still having a lot of fun, but it's like you said with hardcore casuals. A lot of my fun is self-manufactured.
Right.
Like, if I was still in my MOP mode, where I was just doing the patchwork and the dailies and exploring the new content that came out, I would have quit a long time ago.
Right.
If I wasn't PvPing, I would not be here anymore.
And I think that's an important point to bring up. I mean, this is off topic from talking about the abilities in Legion, but make no mistake, as much as we are quote unquote hardcore casuals and we find our own fun, and we even talked last week, we're enjoying our time right now as much as any, simply because we have this free time to do some stuff that we could never have time to when things were current and we had to catch up and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We're not blind to the fact that we're disappointed in Warlords in particular. We're not so blinded and fanboy, fangirl that we're just like, yeah, the expansion's great, I don't know what you're talking about. No, we understand and we feel the same way as most people do. We just find other ways of handling it and stuff for us to do in personal goals and things like that. But I worry sometimes that people think, you keep playing, you seem like you're so addicted and anything else, and you probably just think everything Blizzard does is amazing. And I love Blizzard. I can't wait for Overwatch is one thing that I'm really looking forward to as well. And I'm 10 years coming up in July that I've been playing Warcraft, but I'm not without being able to criticize the decisions that they made, and I've done quite a bit of that with Warlords, and in particular, specifically, I've really delved into my disappointment with the rare spawns and stuff, but that's because that's kind of been my thing on YouTube. But we both talked about, we're concerned about the 2-patch cycle. We're worried that this game is going to be basically the template that Warlords has set forth, minus some specifics like garrisons and things like that. But the overall 2-patch, they're trying to work for a 1-year expansion, which I just don't even know. Obviously that's great for them in terms of turnaround for selling more expansions once a year. But in terms of the game's health and longevity, I don't think that's going to be good. So we have our concerns. Weird thinking about back to Mists and how that we probably took that expansion for granted because we had no idea what was coming.
Absolutely, we did, yeah.
But we may never have an expansion like that again, and are we ready for that? Makes me a little bit nervous. I'm not sure. As much as I'll continue to play, I know I will. But I guess at some point I am a little worried that I'm going to just be playing out of habit.
Yeah, just because that's what we've done for so long.
Right.
It's scary to think about quitting.
Right, and I don't have any real thoughts about that at this point, and I don't think I will anytime soon, because I think, again, one of the reasons why we have this podcast is we are a little bit different in terms of we have ways of finding our own fun in lots of different fashions. Even what's great about it is the way we not only just play the game that way, but we also make content based on the game, and that's a whole nother aspect that one thing I'll speak on right now is that we're going to eventually have guests on the show. We definitely have already spoken about it. I don't know at what point. We don't want to rush that. But one of the things I want to do for the show at some point is have like a community spotlight where we have content creators that aren't like super well known but have great stuff and need to be, brought to the forefront a little bit. Even though we don't have a huge platform here, but still we would like to bring some people that are doing good work to you. And if you ever think about doing anything like that, if you've ever thought about doing a podcast or a blog or making a YouTube channel, I encourage you to do it, because you won't know what the hell. I guarantee you this is one of the things stopping you. You won't know what the hell you're doing, and that's fine.
Yeah,
we never do.
Look at our overlay. Look at our logo. You just got to suck it up and do it anyway.
Right, and then if you go back and look, I haven't gone back to look at your initial videos, but certainly mine, they were absolutely horrendous.
Oh my god, when I hit 10,000 subscribers, I did a video that included my first video, and I cringed so hard putting that together that my eyebrows almost never came back up to their normal spot. It's awful. But everybody does that. There's no shame in doing something that's really cringy because that's where you got to start. If you ever want to get anywhere, you may as well just go suck. As
Right.
my trumpet professor once told me back when I was trying to be a trumpet player. That was dumb. But he said you've got to stand up in front of a whole bunch of people, do at least 100 awful solos, and embarrass yourself and make a fool of yourself at least 100 times before you start doing any good ones. So don't worry about sucking because you're going to.
Well, and you're not going to know.
Do it. Just get out of the way.
As a content creator, it's going to take you a while to figure out, who you are, what you're passionate about, and what you really want to make stuff of. So that's another thing too. It's all a process, and I actually, again, kind of like I said with WoW, I miss kind of that whole learning thing because that whole process is fun because you're learning, you're figuring stuff out, and every time you improve on something or find something you're passionate about. Like for me, when I first started doing stuff, I had zero clue what my channel was going to be about or anything else, and I started kind of just followed what I was doing in game and started translating that to like updates and stuff like that. Then it went to like we did the leveling series and then rares guides. But then I did some machinima and it was totally just random. Somebody was talking about when they were going to get rid of Theramore, and we thought it was going to be gone from the game for good. We didn't know they were going to phase it and all that stuff. We thought it literally was going to be gone. And so somebody was like, I'm going to miss Theramore, and I'm taking some screenshots, but I wish I could do something more like, Joe does in terms of videos. I'm like, oh, you want a video of Theramore? I mean, cool, I'll go do that for you. That'd be cool. So I went and got a bunch of footage and stuff and put some music to it. And, it wasn't anything great at all. In fact, it's very cringeworthy when I look back on it now. But then, like that ended up on Movie Watch on, what was WoW Insider. And it's like, how the hell did that get there? It's not that great or anything. But the guy in particular that was in charge of that was basically like, look, if we don't encourage initial people, they're never going to continue on. So I started doing more and more of that, and there's some things that I'm actually very proud of, but I would have never done it if I would have just, somebody would have tweeted at me randomly that they would like to see something like me in terms of something that I would do in terms of a Theramore thing. So you got to just go with it and try, and I can't encourage people more enough because it really does add a whole new aspect to playing this game and being able to, because I talked last week about how you can help somebody in game, you just randomly find somebody, and it feels good to be able to help somebody in game. But when you can make a guide or something, just one video, just one thing, and it helps hundreds to potentially thousands of people, that's really, really gratifying. And I know you know about that because of your pet battle videos, because I see nothing but like amazing comments on all of them, like, oh my god, you saved my ass.
Oh man, you haven't gone deep enough in the comment section. But yeah.
Oh god,
yeah,
I'm
really cool.
glad I haven't. Yeesh. So anyway, but yeah, so we're going to definitely have content creators. We're looking at guests here in the upcoming episodes. We just haven't really decided when we want to do that. We wanted to kind of get our foot in the door and kind of figure out our own stuff. As you can see, we're still finding it's only episode 2. I've done some podcasting. Have you at least been on a podcast anywhere?
Nope, never.
No. Why have you? Okay, come on, folks. You need to get Hazel as a guest. I mean, she's awesome. I'm gonna have to start pushing for that. So I mean, it's chemistry and all that stuff. Format we're still working on in terms of different little segments and stuff like that. We have ideas, we just haven't worked them in yet. So it's going to be, again, just like anything else, a process. But we're going to bring some good stuff to you, and we're looking forward to it. So we are coming up on 8:30 now. So I just want to thank you guys again for stopping by. I mean, we've got more people than we had last week. That's a good thing. Yeah. And the fact that you guys appreciate what we're talking about, and a lot of you are, involved in the same thing. You guys are still playing, and you guys have your own, agendas and stuff like that. That's exactly how we are, and we want to encourage that and talk about that. And if you guys have ideas and what things that you're doing in WoW right now during the content drought, as it is, drop us a line and tell us what you guys are doing, what you guys want us to talk about here on Emerald Dreamcast. It's emeralddreamcast@gmail.com, and we will check that.
Or you can tweet at Emerald Dreamcast with one shared D because we ran out of letter spaces.
Yes, that's true as well.
So just tweet in that you all want to hear about nothing but PvP, and we'll outnumber him, and I'll take it over.
That's when I'll be sick that week, and
we'll rename the podcast to Blood and Intestines.
Blood and Thundercast.
Blood and... That sounds too horny. What's the Alliance version of that?
I don't know, but Horde's better anyway, so whatever.
We'll fight that one out later.
Yes, we'll have to do that post show. Well, I'm not worried about her. She's so casual. So, anyway, so thanks again. And if you want to reach us in particular, you can go to our YouTube channels. You got youtube.com/HazelNuttyGames. Mine is Wowmartiean, which WOWMARTIEAN. I know it's stupid and crazy. And as far as Twitter's concerned, same thing for myself, Wowmartiean. And yours is HazelNuttyGames there, isn't it? Or no, HazelNutty8, isn't it? Or is that only
no,
your
HazelNutty
Twitch?
is my Twitch.
That's Twitch. So and you can see her streams because she streams every day pretty much.
6 days a week. Monday's the only day I don't stream, and I guess I'm streaming right now anyway. So yes.
Yes, that's true. Just an audio version. So yes, HazelNutty8, go to Twitch here as well and throw her a follow.
What did you say your Twitter was? Was it Wowmartiean?
Wowmartiean, and my Twitter is Wowmartiean as well. Our Twitch is also Wowmartiean. And YouTube, all of it's a Wowmartiean, and it really was. Again, when we talk about starting a YouTube and whatever else, I had no idea that it would ever amount to anything. So I really didn't think about branding or anything like that. I just okay, Martian's my character, and I put WoW in front of it, like WoW Krendor or WoW Hobbs, because they were people that I idolized. So yeah, so there's that. So. Anyway, guys, thank you very much again for coming out. Like I said, you guys are encouraging us, and we're really having a great time. I'm really, like I said, 2 years in the making. I'm very happy we're doing this.
Yay! So. Happy feelings.
I'm hanging out with Hazel, bro.
Can you hear my cat purring? She's been cuddling right in front of the mic for like half an hour.
You've talked about this, and no.
Oh.
Anyway,
I need to get her own
We
mic.
need to go. Showtime's over. All right, guys. Thank you guys very much. Like I said. And we will see you next week.
We'll be back next week.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
I rolled a 20.